Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to In the Zone. We are so elated today. We're super pumped, as we say on the show, just about every week. But when we have special guests on, and today is a super, super special guest, we have with us today, folks, Adonal Foyle. And this is a special moment for me. And this is probably our fifth or sixth guest and maybe my third player that I've coached to have on this show. So this has been rare moment for me to be able to reconnect with former players and also players who've gone on and done extremely, extremely well in life and in basketball. So it's exciting for us to welcome today Adonal Foyle. Welcome, Freddie.
Hi, Coach.
How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. It's been an amazing year and becoming a daddy. So that's been all consuming, but Olympic year. It's just been a lot of fun things happening this year, man.
So Elizabeth, let's talk about her.
Uh-huh. Man, Coach, I don't know if I ever thought about having kids until really, really late, obviously, in my life, and met somebody that I wanted to have kids with and wanted to create a family with, and we're able to get Elizabeth, and it's been one of the most life-changing things that I've ever done, and I think when I look back at my life, it's probably going to be one of the most important.
Almost definitely. It changes everything. It puts everything into perspective. It did for me, and we both got at it late, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that made me a better dad. I'll be really honest with you. That I was a little older, a little more mature, and I could be present and be there for her in that way. You know, think about if you had her years ago when you were traveling in the NBA and you were in different city every night, and you would have a difficult time connecting and seeing her and doing all those things that you're able to do right now. So life brings it as it comes, brother. Life brings it as it comes. All right. So I want to start off in Canawan. All right, a lot of people, this was an easy research for me because I knew everything before I had to look it up, but I want to start in Canawan and I want to start with Mom Patricia.
Uh, Man, my mom was an amazing woman. She raised four kids by herself. My dad left when I was very young, and my mom left me behind to go to another island in order to continue to support us. And I was raised by my grandparents, but my mom has always been that breadwinner, really holding down the fort for all of our siblings. And so for me, she's been one of those heroic women in my life that always rise to the occasion and did what was asked from her, no matter what it was. And to this day, I think, like, for me, having kids, I think the best part about having a daughter is my mom and her reaction, which was, "Son, I have a son. I don't have a son. I got a new daughter. Get out of the way." So it's been amazing to see her, interact with my daughter, and of course, ignores me. But she's been just a force of nature, just always been behind the scenes, supporting me and encouraging me to be the best version of myself. And sometimes I fall short of that, but she's always been there to say, "Get up and keep walking." It's a process. So I am forever changed because she is my mother and the kind of woman she has always been throughout my life.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And we always start with that when we have guests on. We start with family. Your family to me, we're basketball family, but we always talk about the real family, the people in our lives that supported us, that made it so easy for us to to have our talent, but also to be able to exhibit that talent and do what we do. And so love to start with the family. And so it would be there was no way to have a conversation about family unless we discuss your social family, which is the great Jay and the indomitable Joan Mandel. Let's talk about them for a second. Two Colgate professors that adopted Adonal at 15, brought him to the States, and it's an unbelievable American story, one that I was proud to have any part in. Let's talk about Jay and Joan, Adonal.
Man, I think Jay and Joan transformed my life in so many ways. I mean, from convincing my mom that, to allow me to come to the States with them, and really stepped right in being my parents, not somebody on the standing on the outside looking in. They really became my parents in many ways and helped me navigate what was an insane process of going through the collegiate experience, finding a school, deciding where to go to school, really deciding about my educational life, and really stressing the importance of like that duality between academic and sports. Coming from the island, my mom kind of told them, and I didn't know at the time, send me back an educated man, and they took that to heart and really stressed the importance of me really putting in mind not only what I could do in the court, but also what I needed to do in the classroom, and really wanted me to be aware of that duality constantly, but also to be aware of like life happens beyond the basketball court. We were able to start my foundation, Democracy Matters, really talking to young people across the country about being politically engaged. So, Jen Jones has been, in life, you don't always get a chance to pick a set of parents. And I was fortunate to be able to pick a second set of parents. And it has, I think, changed my life in so many ways, bringing me from the Caribbean, adopting me, and really following me and guiding me all the way through my collegiate career and my professional career. It's been an unbelievable journey with them, and they have changed my life, I think, in ways that I cannot begin to understand.
Some of Adonal's basketball games in high school were held in our gymnasium at Colgate. And so I had a front row seat to see just about every one of his games. And a lot of coaches around the country had been calling me, to get an idea of what I thought about Adonal. And I had coached Olden Polynice before that. And I could see right then in high school that you were going to be able to be a pro. But the reason that I knew that it was going to be a successful journey for you was because of your level of commitment, preparation. As you see the Colgate shirts on already, folks, he was prepared and ready for this moment. But his level of preparation, but also his dedication to the arts, to the liberal arts, to be erudite, to really, that you took that very, very seriously and graduated magna cum laude from one of the finest institutions in the country. But we got to go back to the recruitment process a little bit, because this is my favorite part of it, okay? We have Kansas, we have North Carolina, we have Mike Krzyzewski Duke, we have Jim Boeheim Syracuse, and we have little old Colgate. Let's talk about how that all began.
Yeah, it was such a strange journey, in picking a college. I mean, imagine as a person who didn't grow up in this country, you wake up and there is we had trash bags, 33-gallon trash bags filled with letters from, colleges all over the United States, and trying to figure out like how to make the best decision. I mean, team is promising you, these colleges is promising you everything. You're going to be the best athlete. You're going to be the next second coming. And I really wanted to make this decision with what my mom kind of sent me to the States with, this notion of the duality between athletics and academics. And I was trying really hard to figure out what that looks like. And my parents, we sat down, we decided to come up with a list. And we started doing pros and cons, and I think somewhere along the line we decided that Colgate should be part of this list. It was a Division I school, and it had all of the elements that we were thinking about from an academic perspective, and so we wanted to put it on the list. But as the process kind of unfold, as we start visiting and we start going down and visiting different schools, Colgate started to look more and more prominent on the list. And I think that, trying to convince the world that, Colgate is a legitimate Division I school and a school that I should take seriously, there was a lot of convincing in the family. There was a lot of conversation in the family. And I cannot tell you how many long nights we have having those conversations, Coach.
So let me just jump in with the list. Okay, because this is where I came in, and this is where I think things took a turn for our better when I was assistant coach at Colgate for Jack Bruin. All right, all of the time that I got to know Jay and Joan, I believed that they had your absolute best interest at heart. I got to know them in the recruitment process a tiny little bit, but the one thing that struck out to me was they were fiercely going to defend you in this process to make sure that academics was going to be part of the consideration. So as I get to know Jay, my New York spider sense starts tingling. And I'm looking at this guy and saying, this work is going to be a long process. They're not jumping in and out of this. They're going to be in this young man's life for a very long time. And so the list comes, and what your mom and dad did, Jay and Joan did, was they asked Coach Bruin at the end to help them compile a list of 10 schools.
Right.
I was out of town recruiting. And when I left the office to go recruiting, I stopped by Coach's office and I knocked on the door and I said, Coach, you make sure you write down Colgate on that list of 10. And I said, we belong there. And I said, we'll do right by this young man. And you know that. And so you make sure you put Colgate on the list. I come back over the weekend. I call him up on the phone. I go, Jackie, how we doing? He said, did you give the list to Jay and Joan? He said, I gave him the list. I said, Jack, was Colgate on the list? He says, I couldn't do it, Richie. I couldn't put us down on the list. He goes, that young man's a McDonald's All-American. If he'll go to Duke, you know he's going to be a pro. I couldn't in good conscience do it. The steam coming out of the sides of my ears, I'm sure he could see it through the phone. And I said, I want you to give me 5 minutes on the phone with Jay Mandel. Can you let me make that phone call right now? And he goes, absolutely. I called Jay on the phone. I go, Jay, what'd you think of the list? And Jay was tepid. He goes, Then I knew I had it. And I said, Jay, that list hasn't been made public. Nobody knows anything right now. And I'm going to tell you what we're going to do in this process. He goes, how could you guys not put Colgate on the list? I said, Jay, the list is a work in progress, and Colgate is going on the list. He goes, okay, now you're talking to me, okay? Because we're not saying Adonal has to go to Colgate, but Colgate belongs on this list. I said, 100%, Jay. I'm with you. I said, Jay, I'm so committed to this. Virginia's on the list. And one of my best friends, Dennis Wolf, is at Virginia, and we're taking them off the list. Okay, that's one of my best friends. That's how strongly I'm committed to this. And so we went on the list of 10, and then it just went from there. Talk about your experience at Colgate. All right, tell me about Jimmy Maloney, Tui,
man.
Russell Lynch, Timmy Bolin.
Man, I really do think I had some of the best teammates. You know, from Tucker Neal to
Tucker.
Man, I think I think as a school, we had this notion that, we didn't necessarily belong. And I think that one of the things, Jimmy, as a kind of older vet, he kind of believed it. And the guys then believed that, we're close. We could do this thing. So I remember Tucker Neal, he's like, with you, I swear to God, we could do this. We could do this. Tucker was like, forget all the other schools. You come into Colgate, I had like an amazing time in the recruiting process. And then obviously coming in, with a little bit of older guys, and they were kind of been through the process. So start looking at them and seeing their belief system and what they believe that we could do, and really trying to kind of like change the culture, like forever at Colgate was one of the best experiences of my life. To be that student athlete in every sense of the word, having some of the best professors in the world, and, going out and scoring 30 and coming back and your professor say, okay, Donald, where's my 30-page paper? Great job last time, but you got to bring me my paper.
No doubt.
It was really an amazing
No doubt. It was a full experience. And I, to this day, I swear to people that that's the right way to do it. To have our young men, because what you're doing post-basketball has been buttressed by the fact that you attended Colgate, and they gave you an education there of a lifetime. And that was one of the selling points we had in the recruiting process. As much as those schools are great schools and they have a lot to offer, basically what I said to Adonal was, if you go to Duke, you'll be just another one of their All-Americans. But if you go to Colgate, everybody will want to know why you made that decision. And everybody wanted to know. The place was absolute. We had more press on our campus. All of a sudden, Colgate took off. Adonal had about 250 roommate requests from people on the first go through, and it was absolutely an explosion, and it was unbelievable, and it was an absolutely the right choice in my mind. Okay, we get drafted.
Mhm.
Warriors, talk about it. What did draft day mean to you?
Draft day was probably the most stressful part of my NBA career because my mom at the time, we decided to bring her up for the draft. She's never been in a plane for that long. We brought her to the United States, gotten her, trying to get her a visa to come to be there at the draft. Jay and Joan being there, and you get an agent. I got Michael Jordan's agent. I mean, it was like so surreal going through that process, meeting all the other players, going out and trying out with all about 20 something different teams, really meeting and talking with them and trying to figure out what's the best situation. And then obviously being drafted 8 overall by Golden State. And the culture in Golden State was an evolving one. So over the 10 years in Golden State, I think I had 8 coaches in 10 years. So there was a lot
Wow.
of, and there's a lot of inconsistency. But really, I learned the game from so many different amazing teachers that came in. They didn't stay long enough. So from PJ to Don Nelson, it was like a
Wow.
really amazing laboratory. I wish that there was more consistency. But when I look back at my career in Golden State, besides that kind of up and down, the thing that I'm most proud of is the fans have always been the most amazing. They understood what was happening. They understand the game and really stayed engaged when they didn't really have a lot of reason to. So to be there, coming in, being at the bottom of the league, walking our way to that by the end of 10 years, beating the best team in the league in the We Believe era and beating Dallas. I mean, that kind of arc was something, short of unbelievable.
Talk to me now. We have the NIL, we have the portal, we have all of this stuff going on in college basketball. Give me your take on that. Does it have a stop point, or is it just kind of spinning now out of control?
Yeah, I think we need to we need to take a step back and really reassess what is the point of a college education. I think today, and I don't mean that in the traditional sense. I think we've gotten away from the idea of the student athlete in so many sense of the word, and I think college is stand a dangerous risk of being a bystander to all of this stuff that they're happening instead of really asserting, I think, more fully the role of the student athlete and the role of the educator in a system that also involves sports. I feel like in many ways sports is winning, and it's not that there's a problem with athletes getting access to the panoply of things that is available to them, but I think the university has to reassert more its role as educators, because I believe that what makes my experience at Colgate so unique is this idea that there were really 2 lanes that you had to competing, and that academic lane can't lay waste, to the athletic lane, right? So you need the academic lane to stay as it is in order to ensure that when a person gets out of that system, that they're fully grounded and they're aware of all of the things that they can contribute to in society. And I think sometimes right now what's happening is that so much focus on the athletic lane that I hope that we don't disrupt the academic lane. So to me, it's a process. It's kind of a sorting out process, trying to figure out where is that balance, where is that sweet spot where we can really return to the idea of the student athlete and not have the pendulum swing so far that we become a minor league for athletic rather than for the student athlete.
That's why I wanted you to be president of Westfield State, Adonal. That's why. That wisdom. You've always had that sage wisdom. Let's talk about Democracy Matters, and let's talk about KLF for a minute.
Yeah, so Democracy Matters has been one of my passion projects when I got out of college, which was this idea of really asking a simple question. Why isn't more people participating, more young people participating in the electoral process or system as a whole. And I really wanted to get at that. So I wanted to kind of ask them. So I started Democracy Matters with my step parents to really try to give young people this idea of how do you create a system that is more responsive to the need of all of its citizens. So Democracy Matters really came with this idea that money in politics at its very core is disruptive. And really what you need more is people in politics. And you need young
100%.
people to get involved and young people to really understand that the way our political system works, if you need to change the system, you need to get involved in the system, understand how the system works, and add to assert power and the system. So we wanted to really just really encourage young people to find their voice. And over the course of the last 20 some years, we've been doing that, and we've seen Democracy Matters has grown, but most importantly, we're now seeing allies currently talking about some of the issues we've been talking about for the last 20 some plus years. So we feel like we've been part of that conversation, bringing young people into the fold and really helping them to understand that their role in the system overall.
No doubt. Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And as much as one thing that has been very salient for me over the course of watching, I love politics and I'm a political science major and I love to watch it, but I'm independent and it's more like I'm at a tennis match as I go back and forth. But the structure of our democracy holds all the time. And it will hold in the future. And that's one thing I want people to be confident in. The structure of this democracy is built on people, like Adonal said. And that's what holds all the time. The people will always hold. Adonal, tell us about Kerosene Lamp.
Yeah, so the Kerosene Lamp Foundation was this idea of really wanting to stretch the kind of what basketball has taught me. So I felt like the duality that we talk about between academic and sports is really an essential one for young athletes and young kids in general. Really, this idea of teaching them from the very onset that you could be a student athlete. I always think of it as reclaiming the mantle of the student athlete. And how do you encourage young people to know that they can do both, because it's so essential. So Democracy Matters, Kerosene Lamp Foundation, started off really in the Caribbean, just doing basketball camps for kids there. And then we realized over the course of the last 20 years that we needed to be more targeted. So we started focusing, and in the States, we started doing backpack drive, because we realized when kids was going back to school, they didn't have all the essential equipment they need. So just giving a kid a backpack with everything they would need for the school year, it was so powerful, and there's so many needs for it. So we started off, I think, with 35 backpack for a school that needed it. And I think this year we given out over 3,000 backpacks. And so we've been growing every year, making sure that kids have what they need. And then we also started a scholarship program in the Caribbean where we took the best kids in the science program and run them through a STEM program with another organization. In the last 7 years we've done this, we've been able to send almost 7 kids to Ivy Leagues all over the country. So we've been really fortunate to really take this idea of the student athlete, but most importantly, to empower and really help young people find their purpose and their path. And we've been really doing that in numerous ways and in really creative ways, from a kid having access to a computer for the first time back in the Caribbean to a kid in Oakland having a backpack, going back to school and everything that they need. So it became an organization really more about opportunities and really teaching young people to find their leadership voice.
I'm a bit of an old dog in the basketball game, and I can say that. And all the people that I've met, Donald is one of the most beautiful people that I've ever met, and I would describe him now because he is a beautiful person. And you can see in his work after the NBA, even while he was in the NBA, just a beautiful, beautiful person, and it's been an honor to have to know him. I want to talk about this last thing because I know we're over time already. This conversation has just gone like water flowing. But I did want to talk about, in 2009, you got inducted into the World Sports Humanitarian Hall of Fame. And to me, that kind of sounds like it might be even better than the real Hall of Fame. And I wanted to give the people, there's only 8 other players in NBA history who've been given this award. It's Tiny Archibald, Vlade Divac, Dr. J, Julius Erving, A.C. Green, Kevin Johnson, Dikembe Mutombo, God rest his soul, David Robinson, Steve Smith, and, of course, our own Adonal Foyle. Talk about that. That had to really be an unbelievable moment, a life moment.
It really was. It really changed my life. And I think, part of the thing with that is that I got to meet Tommy Smith during my induction ceremony. He was inducted on the other side. And, we really had a relationship that has gone on since that time. And, you do the work that you do. And I love basketball, this, but I always felt like as basketball player, people forget that we're human beings and that we have desires and family outside within the realm of which we compete. So the thing about the humanitarian award is that I felt like it was the perfect award for me because I am that person. I love being on the floor. I love having a conversation about the future of our country. And I think that those things, should be in every athlete's lane. Just because you compete doesn't mean you can't compete in the society in which you live, or you can't have an opinion about that. So I think that for me, the cool thing about that is that it was so different. It was the people I met along the way, but I think it's about what we could be as athletes, is that we could be more than just the game. We can be more than just what we do and the feel of play. And I really want to encourage more athletes to find their voice because, whether we want to believe it or not, we have a network, we have a group of people who look up to us, and in so much, not to just tell people what to do, but to give them information about how to make better decisions and why you make the decision you make might be a starting point for them to have that same conversation and that same kind of, I would say, battle with yourself. Because I think that part of what makes us human is that we have to have those uncomfortable conversations, not only with our family, not only with our friends, but with ourselves. And I think once you have those conversations, you realize we're all just part of this little rock trying to figure out the best way forward.
It's unbelievable. Pete, we're going to let Adonal go, but this has been absolutely one of the great honors of my life. To coach you was one of the great honors of my life. But again, to bring it back full circle, Freddie Foyle, one of the best people that I've ever met in my life, and I want to thank you for coming on the Zone. And also, your new chapter as a dad is you're perfect for that, my friend. You're going to be the best dad there ever was. And to all of the people at Colgate, our time there, we love you, and Adonal, we love you as well. Stay well, my brother, and we'll have you back soon.
Thank you, brother.
Pete, another one.
That was a lot of fun.
One. Yeah, unbelievable. Really, really good stuff.
I'm just sitting out here in the control room listening and going, wow. That's
he's
amazing.
He's quite the amazing person. I really have talked to him at different times about he needs to take his level of involvement possibly up a step higher and run for political office because, as you just saw, that is as good as it really gets, Pete. Unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's just an outstanding human being. The influence of Jay and Joan Mandel in his life is significant, and the time at Colgate was significant. And what I always tell people is there's always a divergent path in life. You can always walk a divergent path in life and have success there, as long as you're following your passion. And Adonal Foyle walked a divergent path for sure. Most people don't turn down Duke. Most people don't turn down Kansas and North Carolina to go to Colgate. It was an act of courage, tremendous act of courage. But I wanted everybody to see we were right. We were 100% right.
Well, and I think his adopted parents wanted to make sure he was a good man first and a good basketball player second.
You picked up on that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were fierce. They were fierce. I love them too. They were great people. Great people. And the work that they did was of a humanitarian effort as well. They've done other work in the Caribbean, done other things in the Caribbean, and they're just really, really great people. And it's been a great honor for me to know all of them. It really is. Pete, we're going to jump off into Pete's Corner. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete's always working. Pete's always going at this. And we got a new graphic for you today. We're going into Pete's Corner. Unbelievable.
All right, first question. We're going to revisit a question that we did last week, or maybe the week before. Last week before? Now Bronny and LeBron have played in the same game. Do you think that LeBron is going to push to keep his son on the main roster, or is he going to be a G League player like you originally thought after playing a couple of games with his dad in the preseason?
So there's two things at play here. That's a great question. Also, now that we're getting a look at it, and again, I'll evaluate this as we go out. But there's going to be, as we alluded to last week, let's be honest, folks. LeBron James is an MVP. He's an all-star, but he's also the coach and the general manager as well. And so Pete's question has a lot of value because there's going to be some pressures that go from either side. What I will say to you is the side that I'm hearing from NBA general managers who are out there who are remaining anonymous, which is also telling, they're having difficulty speaking their mind on this, is that he's not ready to play in the NBA. Okay. Not even close. And then you'll have the other tension from superstar dad, general manager, coach, and is he going to extend that pressure onto the Lakers and say we need him up here all the time, and I want him on the team with me the entire season? I think that there's going to be some back and forth. G League up with the Lakers, G League up with the Lakers, like a lot of players are in the NBA right now. That seems to be kind of the pathway to go. But what the reports are is that he's so far away that it's going to have to take some exertion of his father to do that. Because in normal days, he's going to spend some time in the G League. He's not ready for an NBA roster right now. And that's the question that LeBron James and everybody associated with the Lakers has to ask themselves, and I doubt maybe they'll ask themselves this, but do you want to look the guy in the face who you're getting ready to cut, who you don't have a roster spot for because you're going to take up this roster spot? That's the question. I think that's a salient question that they have to ask themselves.
I think if Bronny had got at least 1 year under his belt at USC, it would have been a different conversation. But he didn't even get that because of his health issues.
Let's go back to, the health issues, and is this placing undue stress and strain on the young man also? What's it going to be like if he winds up in the G League? Does that look like a failure does everybody consider that to be a failure? So as I said before, I've always been a person that was taught to root for underdogs, or at least to support the underdog. And in this battle right here, I think Bronny James is the underdog a little bit because there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. There's no pressure on his father. There's no pressure on him whatsoever. He's an accomplished NBA player. Now, what they're trying to do with the young man, that's where I think the pressure might come in.
Okay,
let's go to 2, Pete.
Question number 2. With all the extra eyeballs this year on the WNBA, the players are now complaining of heckling that is sexist and racist. Now, do you think that that's actually true, one? And do you think that, hey, you wanted the attention, you got it, now some of that comes with it?
Okay. So, do I believe it's true? I do. Because there's a lot of yahoos in this country, and you can't stop everybody from saying stuff. I wish we could. I wish there was a mute button for America, but we don't have one. And so if you want to have freedom of speech and freedom of expression, you're going to have to take the chance that every once in a while, one of these yahoos is going to come off with something that's not A1. Okay? Now, to the binary part of your question, to the second part of your question, now that they have gone up into this echelon, are they somewhat now, I'm forgetting the way that you phrased it, but is that part of where
you wanted
are
the
right
eyeballs
now?
and you want to be a mainstream sport, you're going to get that.
And I know that the men's players take an awful lot of abuse as well.
Yeah.
But racist and sexist comments are not good.
No.
And so if you want to say that Caitlin Clark stinks, shout it from the rooftops. But if you want to say that one of these young ladies isn't good because of X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to be right there vehemently saying that we should absolutely go at that 100%. So is it happening? I've never seen it happen, but I can certainly believe that it does because I know a lot of people, all different types of people.
Exactly.
And when people aren't around, they have a tendency to speak their mind. In an arena like that, with all of those 19,000 people around, that somebody would have the audacity to do that, I would be a little shocked at it, but it does not say, I would not rule it out.
Right.
And now, are they now, because they have eyes on them, entitled to? No, they're not. You shouldn't be saying that about anybody. You shouldn't be saying that about male players. You shouldn't be saying that against female players. Folks, racism's not good. It's no good. Hatred is not good, because here, I'll tell it to you straight out, folks, all right? Hatred, to me, of any form, whether it's racism, sexism, that's just homophobic. It all boils down to hatred.
Yep.
All right? So here's Sutter's theorem for you. All right? You have to have, hatred is like a checking account. You have to have enough in your own account to cash that check. Meaning, you got to hate yourself enough to hate somebody else that much. And that's what my theory is. That's why I don't hate anybody. It's too heavy. You carry it around with you, and it's no good. But, Pete, that was an excellent question.
All right, final question. When you're in a game, how do you prevent tunnel vision as a coach?
That's like maybe the best question I've ever been asked. Because what happens is, as coach, we kind of go in with tunnel vision. You know, you have your game plan. You walk in, and then all of a sudden, what I've learned as a coach is you're just as much as a general on the front lines, though, because your game plan is going to get blown up. Your theory at some point isn't going to work all the way through the season. It'd be awesome if I could start out with one thread, go all the way through the season, no coach on the other opposing teams finds it, nobody knows about it, nobody's talking about it. I mean, eventually they shut down the flex offense, as great as that was. So they'll start to talk about it, and they'll start to get the word out on it. Now, am I going to be able to go through the season without any of the coaches in our league doing video, doing scouting, doing all of this stuff, calling up their other friends in the business and going, hey, look at this film for me. Can you tell me what Sutter's doing? It ain't going to last more than 3 or 4 games. You have to be able to adjust, and you have to be able to move and groove. And as a coach, you're going to come into it with one thought. You better have a couple of other thoughts in your head. You better have plan B, C, and D ready, because depending upon who you're coaching with, think of a chess match. If I'm playing against one of the great chess masters of the world, that match is going to be over in 3 moves. So if I'm coaching against a guy, or they're coaching and I'm at a disadvantage, that game's going to be over in 3 moves. And the same thing happens if I've got the upper hand and I'm looking at a young coach and he just broke out. I'm going to put him to sleep in 3 moves. I'm going to put him out in 4 moves. And so that's where it's at, you know, and that's when these schools that are hiring these coaches, you know, you got to be really careful, because you got to make sure that they know their moves. You got to know that they're going to have something once they get blown up, because you're going to get blown up. Pete, I like this segment so much. I really, really love it. All right, we're going to jump into NBA Feed 'em Fish, folks. That Adonal interview was smooth. It was quick. And I looked up at the clock and I said, oh, my God. All right, so that means we'll have something left for you next week, too, though. All right, Larry Bird is the word, is this segment right now. Larry Bird is the word. I will often say that Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball athlete of all time. At the same moment, I say Larry Bird is the greatest basketball player of all time. His acumen, his skill, his ability, given his limited athleticism, just made him, to me, the greatest player of all time. Here's what I'm going to tell you what it looks like. The Celtics, the year before they drafted Larry Bird, were 29-53.
Wow.
That's not very good, folks. That's not Detroit Piston territory. That's not Washington Wizards territory, but it ain't that good. You're not that much farther from the Pelicans and the Orlando Magic. You're not a good team. Well below 500. Okay? What happens in Larry Bird's rookie season? Again, a lot of people say he should have been the MVP in this season, but he came in 4th. 61-21 in his first year with the Celtics. 78-79, they shoot a 29-53. Come on out in 79-80, 61-21. During that season, Pete Maravich and Dave Cowens both retired due to injuries. And so that team didn't have Kevin McHale. That team didn't have Robert Parrish. They didn't have Dennis Johnson, I believe, also. Those players were to come very, very soon after. That's what made the Celtics dynasty. But if you want to look at the impact of one man and say, wow, I don't know, show me some other numbers, you know, that are like that. In your first year, you absolutely turned that franchise around. I think you'd have to look at it. He was a 5-time second-place finisher for MVP. He was a 3-time MVP, but 5 times he came in second place. Unbelievable. All right, Pete, we're going to slide. There's not a whole lot going on in the NBA right now. They're about ready to kick. They've got some preseason games going on right now, and you're looking at the Celtics, 2-0. They're off to a very, very good start. They seem to be ready and take that mantle on as a team that has to repeat. You got to have some resiliency. You got to have some resiliency. But I did want to jump into the NCAA for a quick bit because we're going to start with a little bit of NIL kills the NIL. All right? It reminds me of that great video which says video killed the radio star. It was by the Buggles back in the day. And anybody who really wants to get back into some really, really deep music culture, that was the absolute first video played on MTV when MTV broke out. That's the first video that they played. Video killed the radio star. Well, here we are in 2024, Pete, and the NIL killed the NLI. All right, let me explain. Okay, the NLI used to be National Letter of Intent. Okay, NCAA Division I Council of Directors or some other Grand Poobah organization just voted to take down the NIL because the NIL is much more prevalent. Now recruits will be signing a financial aid agreement and a revenue share contract. Read the fine print, folks. That's what I would do. If they're putting something in front of you, I'd make sure I read the fine print to make sure that you're still going to be able to cash a check later on.
College is going to get theirs.
And they're not allowed to sign one or more agreement at a time. Okay. NCAA. They're a bunch of fish running around with no teeth. They can't bite no more. Now they're looking at them. And this is what I said to my people over at Westfield State. I say this to other Division III and Division II people, not the people that are in the big Division I grand ball, as they say. You know, just the people who do the work, same work that all the other coaches are doing. We do it at the lower levels, and we do it for the love of the game, and we do it for that stuff, you know. But it's just, that's my concern, is that the NCAA is getting their head smashed in so many times in court by the Division I lawyer crew, is that they're going to come down to 2 and 3 and just start leaning on us and doing stuff down at us because they can. That's what I don't like. All right, we've got a Purdue update for you. They've taken 7'3" Daniel Jacobson and added him. And now that will be seen as the Zach Edey project number 2. Okay? But I wanted to talk about that because it's a little interesting. We have Big Z replacements. All right? This is what I call Big Z replacements. Big Zach is now in the NBA. What does it look like in the NCAA? So we've got Daniel Jacobson at Purdue, 7'4". Ade Mara at UCLA, 7'3". Will Berg, 7'2", at Purdue. Purdue has 14.6 feet. Okay, Vlad Golden, 7'1". Tomislav Ivisic, 7'1". Braxton Mia, 7'1". Umar Ballo, 7 foot. Aaron Bradshaw, 7'1". Matt Nicholson, 7 foot. Stephen Crowell of Wisconsin, 7 foot. Almost every single one of those players is in the Big Ten, making the Big Ten the Big Ten. Pete, I don't know if you have that clip from what I showed you during the week, though, but if we have it, we got to put it up. Okay?
I don't think I do.
All right, so we don't need the clip, but what I'm going to tell you is whoever put that list together, you messed up huge because you didn't go to the University of Florida and see Olivier Roux, who is now 7'9", enrolled as a freshman for the Florida Gators. And I don't know what they're doing down there in Florida. Well, I know what they're doing down there in Florida right now. They're trying to get the water out of their living room. But what's going down at Florida Gator basketball program is Olivier Roux, 7'9", folks. He can almost dunk the basketball without leaving the floor. They have Victor Mychik, 6'11", Alex Condon, 6'11", Ruben Chingale, 6'10", Michael Han-Glocken, 7'1", Thomas Ha, 6'9". That's 6 guys on their team that are 6'9" or better. They're going big down there, Florida, going huge. Okay, in the segment, and today is supposed to be the day, but we're still boozing. Still boozing on In the Zone, Pete. And what we mean by still boozing is we talked last week about Cameron and Caden Boozer. 2 really, really great prospects out there. Number 2, number somewhere between 17 and 19 on the ESPN top 225 list, the top 100. Okay? It looks like it's a binary equation. Today is the day that they're supposed to make their announcement, but I don't know that it comes today with all of what's going on in Florida. That announcement could be postponed. But right now, Pete, right now, while we're still boozing, okay, we had Duke, Florida, Kentucky, and Miami all receive visits, official visits from both brothers. Arkansas, North Carolina didn't get visits, but they were around the perimeter as well. They were in there most of the year. As I can see right now, there's going to be a battle between Duke and Miami for both of these players. Let me explain the Duke angle. Okay. The dad played at Duke, was a great player at Duke, played on possibly a Duke national championship team. Okay? Now the two boys are they live in Miami, right next to Miami's campus. They've grown up in that area, and they have some decisions to make now. My understanding is that Miami's not going to get beat to the dollar on this one. They've got their people ready to go. They've got their NIL money loaded in the musket and ready to go. But Duke is Duke, and they're tough to beat in a recruiting frame anytime you look at it. If Cooper Flagg is going to go and be the number one pick in the draft, he's going to leave Duke. The Boozer twins come right back in, and then they're, the heir apparents to do that as well. So we're going to keep an eye on that for you today. We're thinking that might happen today, but there is also some news that might be postponed. All right, Pete, we got a Big Ten preseason poll here for you, and I was a little surprised, but not totally. This is the media, and they follow this pretty closely. Okay. I don't think they're totally tuned into what's going on with all of the shifting and all the movement. I mean, who can be? But the Big Ten, Pete, has not had a national champion since the year 2000. And people are saying, is this the year? I mean, it came very close last year, right. Purdue losing to UConn. But is this the year now that they can break out after not having a title for the last 24 years? Are they able to now eclipse that mark and grab a national title? It's a great question. It's an unbelievable question with a lot of depth to it. I'll answer it for you very, very simply. No, you do not. You will not win the national title this year coming out of the Big Ten. Here's their people. They've got Purdue, number one. Indiana, I like to see the fact that they're respecting Indiana's roster. I really like that roster. I think they got a ways to go. UCLA, brand new to the Big Ten. They're going to jump in. Illinois, Michigan State, Oregon, and Rutgers. Rutgers elevated because they have Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, the 2 and 3 in the top 225 of ESPN. Then they go Ohio State. Look at some of these teams and how now they're just kind of blurs in this conference where there used to be once unbelievably storied basketball programs. Now they're just in the middle or the back of the Pac-10 and the Big Ten and the ACC and the Big 12 and all of these super conferences now are absolutely absorbing some of these once great conference teams, and now they're just kind of blips on the radar. Let me give them to you. Ohio State in 8, Michigan in 9, Maryland in 10, Iowa 11, Wisconsin in the 12 spot, Nebraska 13. Nebraska is going to be a little better than that, I think. USC 14, Washington 15, Northwestern 16. Northwestern will be a little better than that as well. Penn State and Minnesota. I have Minnesota being much better than that, but
there's some storied names in that list.
Those are some unbelievable names. Unbelievable names. Nobody ever mentions Purdue as one of the blue bloods of college basketball, but they're there now, and that's probably because of Coach Painter and the program integrity that they've ascribed to. But Indiana back, that we'll wait to see. They were bad last year, so was Rutgers. Now they have an influx of talent, but you're judging on something that you really don't know. It's not a proven. Yes, Umar Ballo, going to be a great player at Indiana. I can assume that. But Pete and I have talked about this, and it really, really matters. It's the chemistry. Do you have that right program integrity? Do you have that right chemistry? Because it matters. It matters. NBA general managers were quizzed on who they thought was the steal of the draft. And 10% of NBA general managers thought it was Devin Carter from Providence. 10% only, though. There's some other names on here. Bub Carrington from Pittsburgh going to the Wizards. They like that. I think that could happen. I don't know about. He's drafted 14th. I think that could be pretty good. Johnny Furphy was drafted 35th. Kansas, that's the Pacers have him. I don't see him getting a lot of time for the Pacers, so that could be a condition as well. Something you have to give consideration to is, are these players now going to be able to go get minutes? And, if you go to the Celtics, where are you getting minutes? Where's Baylor Shearman going to get his minutes? They got Namias Quaid hanging around for 2 years, a year. He doesn't get minutes. So it's going to be difficult. All right. Dalton Connect, Tennessee, from the Lakers. We'll see. Terrence Shannon, I really like Terrence Shannon. I think the Timberwolves have a chance. With Anthony Edwards and Shannon, I think they can be really good. Nikola Topic from the Euros, OKC Thunder. I don't like him. Number 9, Big Zach Edey. That's who we thought should have been the number 1 from the Grizzlies. They didn't put him down at all. Tyler Kolek, another great player out of Marquette, drafted by the Knicks. I did see him in preseason. He's going to be very good, folks. Kyle Filipowski from Duke. Have no idea how that young man slipped into the 32 spot. But I guarantee you he's going to have as good a career as Devin Carter does, and they got him at 32. And you also have Adem Bona, somebody I'm pretty high on from the 76ers. I think he's going to have a good career there. I think he's going to do some really good stuff. All right, Pete, clue me in on how many minutes we got left.
I think we've got about 5 or 6.
5 or 6. All right. I want to see if I can get this done in 5 or 6 minutes, because this was posted on Twitter by my good friend Kevin Kehoe. And Kevin Kehoe is one of the great people in this business. Really, really good guy, and has been around the game of basketball and the game of football for a good bit. And he posted this, and it really, really puts perspective on what's going on in college basketball right now. And also to say to all of these young men, don't expect instant coffee when you go to a program. Some of those young men have been there for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years ahead of you, and they have time under their belt, and the coaches are familiar with them, and they know the league, and they know the schedule, and they know everything about it.
They know the
and
grind, yeah.
Exactly. So they have a big advantage over you. But here's what this is why the portal kind of ticks me off as it does, because a lot, as we talked about last week, Pete, a lot of those guys aren't going anywhere. That portal's not open for everybody. There's a bunch of guys in there that are doing good and they're making money, and I get all that, but there are large percentages of that portal that are either going down or not going anywhere, and that's not good for the game, I don't think. But when we talk about this, all right, these are high major. All right, you're talking Duke, North Carolina, Houston, UConn. These are the high majors of the world, okay? In the 25th percentile of all of the recruits that go in their first year, okay, the average is 10 games. 3.7 minutes. 0.8 points. 0.3 field goals made. And 0.6 rebounds per game. That's in the 25th percentile. All right, now I'm going to take you up. I'm going to skip all this middle stuff and take you up to the 90th percentile. This is the highest percentile. High major Division I. They've played in 34 games, almost every single game. They're getting 23 minutes a game. They're averaging 9 points, 3.3 field goals made, and 3.4 rebounds. But on the average, all of the high majors, they're averaging 20 games played. That's 2/3 of the games. They're averaging 10.6 minutes. That's 25% of the total game. 3.4 points. A lot of these teams are scoring 80 points a game. That's 76. 76 points you're not involved in. 1.2 field goals made, 1.6 rebounds. That's the average. So you have the 25th, 50th, 75th, and 90th percentile. All right, I'm going to give you mid-major now. So who's mid-major? You got UMass, George Washington, St. Bonaventure. They considered in this the Ivy League mid-major. I don't know. We'll see. I don't really need to have a big argument about what major they're in or what conference they're in right now. Let them include them and we'll go. In the 25th percentile, 6-point games, 6 games, 3.6 minutes, 1.0 on points, 0.2, 0.5. That's in the 25th percentile of a mid-major. Now I'm going to give you their 90th percentile. They would have played in 32 games. They would have averaged 22 minutes.
Yep.
7.4 points, 2.6 field goals made, and 3.4 rebounds. but the averages aren't good. The averages are 17 games, 10 minutes, 3.2 points, 1.1 field goals made, and 1.6 rebounds. The message is, folks, be prepared when you go to a school as a recruit to be a freshman, to get that year under your belt and not have everybody running around going, oh, I got to transfer. Because when you transfer, you just walked into somebody else's gym that has more time under their belt than you. And so in that program, you become a freshman all over again.
Yep.
Instead of staying, spending your time, and growing with the program, the coaches thought you were good enough to be there in the first place, trust them and go with the flow. But if you're going to go in there and expect the instant coffee, that's why the portal is full of people right now that are just moving all over directions, and it's not healthy, not good for the game, and not good for the individuals as well. Pete, unbelievable interview with Adonal Foyle today. I want to leave everybody with this one thought, okay? I'm running out of time, but I'm going to leave it, and this is what I tell my players. When you think, close your eyes for 1 minute. Everybody that's watching this, close your eyes for 1 minute. And now think of yourself, you're about to step into the ocean. And a lot of people are there and saying, well, I don't know how to swim. And don't worry about it. You're going into the ocean, and you are now becoming a giant, where the ocean is at your ankles. The dolphins, the sharks, the whales are just bouncing off of you. A whale fits in the palm of your hand. You're an absolute giant right now, and you're looking out over the ocean as your dominion. Keep that in mind when you get up in the morning, folks. You're an absolute giant. This country is an absolute country of heroes and giants. We'll see you next week on The Zone, baby.